Hey, we are here.
Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Schotch. I'm your lead community developer here at Gun Media, and I'm joined by my buddies. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Wes Keltner.
Daniel Nixon.
Hey, and real quick before we get into the show, we wanted to mention that, recently we launched a patch. We know there's been a lot of conversation about it. There's been a lot of feedback, good and bad, and in all forms. Our thought was, with this entire premise of this show, was to sit down and give you guys an avenue to communicate with us. And considering the amount of conversation that last patch started, we figured it was good to revisit it with a second episode of Beyond. Before we launch into what we're doing here today, though, we want to open up a giveaway on each of our channels right now. We're giving away a Halloween clothing pack on both Twitch and Mixer. So our super awesome Gun Media Help and Gun Media Support accounts are going to open up those raffles and get them running on both platforms. And we're going to basically launch into our show here. We'll announce our winners when it comes up. Look, it's Dan Thump Thump Nixon. I like that. Thump Thump. So, Wes,
I want to give a quick
kick it in?
just a quick shout out. Of course, intro music by Mitch Murder. There's information in the description, I think, where you can find more about Mitch Murder if you want to go check out his stuff. We love him. He's a big, huge supporter of us here at Gun and stuff that we do. So he hooked us up with some music for the intro. And then, of course, the background art is by One Pixel Brush, which is the concept studio that we use for all the concept art we did for Friday. Great team over there. We just like to give them a shout out so that folks know that there's some rad artists out there doing cool stuff.
And if I could, exclamation point artwork in the chat or
There you go.
exclamation point Mitch Murder. We'll give you the links for all those people.
There you go.
I see Gun Media Help is having a raffle issue. Gun Media, you've got the raffle open. Just hit raffle start, and then we'll be able to get everybody entered and doing the things.
Perfect.
Yeah, and Firebird, it's exclamation point then raffle. You got that all backwards, man.
Just really excited.
Yeah, really hyped to get in that raffle. We want to get through a couple of quick shout outs. We see some folks in here, some of our winners from last week. We've got Rogue, we've got Bradshaw, I think his name is Game Playing Guru, Tracy Doll, Havoc, Dollface Thalia, Imp Mech, and somebody who, the Marcus At. How's it going, everybody? So again, recently we made some changes to Rage. People
Yes.
had some feelings. But
Well, we thought it was necessary that before we even got into let's talk about this patch, that we need to make sure that we had someone in the room that brought a little bit of authority so that they knew, like, okay, these guys know what they're talking about. So that's why if you throw to camera 3, you will see J4 is hanging out with us today during the stream.
and let me tell you, he's mad as hell.
Yeah.
Full rage.
We've got we got a few Jasons made up from a friend of ours that does pretty damn close to film accurate busts of Jason. Here in a few, we'll have Dan remove the mask as well, so you guys can check out like the stuff that's underneath the mask. It's pretty rad. But yeah, let's jump into talking about the patch. So yes, there was a patch, and then immediately after that, there was a hot fix like 24 hours later, because there were some bits and pieces that need to be reworked. Obviously, there's some issues with getting Jason down on his knees to then fulfill the kill sequence. So got that rapid patch. So big hats off to the Black Tower, our partners, for scrambling to get all that done in time. But yeah, let's jump into the patch itself, why we felt the need to make that change. And then also, with stuff we're hearing back from everyone in the community about that patch. And that's also why we're here as well. So we'll go through a few of the things of why we did this, and then we want to open it up to you guys to hear some of the feedback and some questions and things that you guys have. The number one reason why this was even discussed internally, why it was concepted first and designed and stuff internally before we took it to market, the number one reason was we were seeing a lot of players that were ganging up on Jason, using everyone had a couple weapons on. They would go and just circle around Jason and beat him up, and that's obviously not in the world of Friday the 13th. Like, that doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen, and it makes Jason not scary. He shouldn't be a punching bag, obviously. Right. So that was sort of the number one reason why we even sat down as a team and started discussing what do we really do about this. And ancillary to that is the scare factor of Jason, is that when if he isn't perceived as a threat because you have weapons that can stun and take him down, and you have some really high level players that know like animation frames of when he's in and out of being stunned, that they can swing perfectly. And now they're just basically trolling that Jason he can never get up again, right? That it just feels not good, right? I mean, naturally, the rage is right around 10 minutes or so, halfway through the match, that rage occurs, but there wasn't a big impact to having rage. Yes, you can break through doors. Yes, you start getting your abilities faster whenever you're in rage, but we wanted to have a little bit more of a punch to that. We really wanted to make it feel like once Jason hit raged, don't mess around with him, right? Like you want to give him some space. And so that all those things were sort of leading up to why we did that. But then also it creates additional opportunities for strategy, like to make the game feel more strategic. You have to decide if you really want to swing that bat and hit him. You know, we always looked at combat as if you were backed into a corner, you know, and that's all you have as a wrench or all you have as a whatever, that if he's coming at you, that this is your last sort of effort to maybe I get a hit off and I can get away.
Saving those hits kind of being the strategic element.
Right, which is why, you know, the combat system that we have is somewhat light compared to, you know, other video games that tend to have more combat options.
That's right.
Right. So that was the the reasoning behind that. But it does add that kind of value to other objects like traps, for example. Right. Like setting a trap in front of a door now it's a real strategic reason to do it. Right. Because if he's raged or not, it's going to stop him for a few seconds. That gives you a chance to potentially get away and get to another cabin or whatever.
Well, and one of the things that we're seeing in a lot of the community feedback, which I think is really interesting, is people, when some of these new strats are kind of floating around, people are throwing out phrases. And I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest and real. People are saying, well, oh, come on, traps, they take too long, they're useless. Well, maybe they were, but I think that there's a shift happening. And you hear some folks who are rightfully so frustrated. We made a major change to a game that they've been playing a certain way. But that frustration, we need to make sure we focus that in ways, to try to embrace these new strategies. And I think that there's a certain element of tension ratcheting up throughout the match. Whereas, it used to be Jason would get rage and it was like, okay, well now he's got rage so he can walk through doors. Like,
yeah, and the big change then was top tier counselor players would just stand on the other side of the door because they know Jason's going to rage through, and then they pop him upside the head.
That's right.
Right.
So getting rid of stun, it helps with a lot of things in later game.
Well, I mean, again, it's you can't just if he's going to walk through that door now, you can't just hang out and wait for him. Which is, and again, being 100% honest and real here, it's a silly thing to be like, I got a really mad serial killer coming at me that is going to walk through a door,
right?
But I'm going to wait for him with a wrench or a pipe.
Right.
Like it started to. There were some elements that were starting to get outside of the design and the core idea.
Right. That's right. And I think Dan hit it on the head. Players standing right beside a door, waiting for Jason to rage through it, and then again they have that memorized that when that animation frame ends, they know when to swing, and so Jason feels strong the seconds that he's busting through a door, and then whap, he gets hit, he falls down, he feels weak again. So it almost takes some of the air out of having rage. It's like, well, what's the point now, right? Like you've ruined this feeling for me, right? That now if he hits rage and he does go through that door, hitting him is not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Which honestly does start to feel more like the films anyway. And that's an important piece of what we do here with authenticity is trying to bring more of a cinematic approach to these moments when they happen to you in game. It should feel kind of like you're at Crystal Lake, and it should really feel like Jason is after me. And I think we had gotten away from that. Like that patch after patch, it felt like we were taking like baby steps away from what it should have been. You know what I mean? And some of that was, concentrating a lot on bug fixes, concentrating on dedicated servers, concentrating, engine updates, and all the things that we've gone through as a team that stuff starts to slip through the cracks, right? And then with the issue with the lawsuit and all that it allowed us to really sit down and look at let's really look at the meat and the bones of this game, right? And not have to be so tight on like the following pieces of content have to go out or something, right? They said it was get down to what is this game, right? Like where is it today? And we saw it was moving away from where it should have been.
Sure.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
conversations about where we're at and where we want to be and how do we get there. They've all been really really good conversations, and we're moving in that direction.
Yep. Yep. And additionally, what we saw come out of these changes with Rage is there's not as many people escaping, and that's the way it should be. And when you do escape, you need to feel like you earned it, right? You shouldn't be standing at the, right at the escape
Doing that,
volume,
yeah.
emote dancing, with a bunch of people. Like, it's funny. I get why you do it, but at the same time, it should feel more like you're finishing a marathon, right? You don't stop it right before you get to the finish line and dance or whatever. Like, you want to push through and be like, I made it, I earned it, I got it. I was one or maybe only two people escaped this whole entire match, and so it just brings more value to the rest of the mechanics and the objectives
Yep.
that you should be doing as a counselor to get yourself out of there. And so early game,
That's right.
early game, you really need to be thinking about how am I getting out of here,
And that's the key thought, because we're seeing folks that are getting the Jason kill early game. We're seeing folks that are getting the car and the boat fixed early game. We're seeing folks that are doing these things, getting the cops called,
Yep.
and able to get to the police to be saved before Jason gets Rage. We're seeing this happening, and I think that does it take a shift and a little bit of a play style shift? Sure, but considering where we are, we'll put it that way. Considering where we are in the life of Friday the 13th, the game, that momentum shift has come from somewhere. That gameplay loop has to get shifted somewhere. And when you can look at it and go, well, hey, here's a video of 3 counselors kicking the crap out of the big baddie, it starts to be a straight line that you can draw from where that shift needs to happen.
Sure.
So.
But yeah, anytime that you make a change like this, you are going to see, I guess, sort of a polarization of players where some like it a lot, some don't. To those that don't like it, I would challenge them to continue to play the game and find the strategy that's in it, because I think it's sort of psychology a little bit in that if someone sort of grinds and gets really good at a specific play style, right, and they know the expected outcome of said play style and they can continuously repeat it over and over again, right, that type of training then starts to gel as like a skill, and then that's what you know how to do really, really well. You know what I'm saying?
I don't mean to derail you, but I just love seeing this. This wasn't the buff that was needed. He's still too weak.
Yeah.
Jason's kill
Again,
is too
yeah.
easy.
There's a polarization of the ideas for sure.
When you find somebody who's screaming about, like, how could you do this? It's how are we gonna live now? How are we gonna escape now? And then you see somebody else going, man, ratchet him up a little further. We ain't scared yet.
Sure.
So
yeah, you're going to get opposing opinions on that, and that's fine. But the key to those that might be struggling with this or unhappy with this, and if you're like I've played it, for hours now with the patch, and I still just don't like it. Okay, it's your opinion, and but the other piece of this puzzle too is we're not done yet.
that's right.
Like this was kind of the first big thing that post all the legal issue stuff that we were able to really sink our teeth into and try to move the needle on the things that we're allowed to move the needle on, right? And I felt like we accomplished that with this, and that now it's going to continue to look at both sides, Jason and Counselor, and make decisions that really do impact and really make for exciting gameplay. But like I said, we're not done yet. So I just challenge that those that are not that don't care for the Jason or think that he's too OP now, to change up your play style. And if you're trying to play the game how you did before this patch, if you're trying to do that now, you are going to lose. You will die a lot, and you will be frustrated. And I can understand how you're going to be frustrated about that. I just challenge you to shift the way you approach the game, and start thinking about early game, mid game, and late game. And with early, it's about trying to get as many escape options opened up as possible, because once Jason hits Rage and shows up, he can basically shut off one full escape route just from his presence, just from being there. because you're not going to be able to pop him in the face and buy enough time to get that car restarted or whatever it is. So you need to be able to abandon, right, one of the escape options and go to the next one. And if you're able to do that as a player, you're going to find more variety during that gameplay. You're going to find more interest. You're going to find more run-ins with other counselors and more water cooler moments to discuss the next day because you weren't playing the game in a linear way. And I think that's what a lot of people are upset about is they got really, really good at this one path,
Yeah.
right? And what we did was just we kind of threw a wrench into that, and they're upset with it, and it's understandable. We're just saying, hey, choose some other paths, experiment, and see if that starts to feel good because it should feel like, oh my God, I lived. I can't believe it, right? That's how you need to feel like I really freaking earned that
Yep.
instead of just, breezing through it. Does that make sense?
For sure. We've got a couple of folks. Real quick, though, I wanted to say, what's up? Please Me University is in the chat there hanging out, which is pretty cool. Good to see you. We've got Game Playing Guru. He's talking about making a video on the patch. We appreciate it, man. Make sure you link us. Let us see it. We've got some folks on both sides. Oh, Technicalities, Matt Hatter, Lynn, Dublin Poppy. How's it going, guys? And over on Mixer, we've got tons of folks hanging out in chat. We want to make sure, though, that at this point in the show, we get to your questions. We want to make sure we hear as many of your questions as possible. So make sure you're tagging at Gun Media in those questions so that we can get them seen and we can get them answered. But to kind of put a little, I don't want to say a bow, but put a bow on the design idea here. When you talk about we're not done yet, what more can we tell the community about what we're looking at with Rage and the Rage change?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things that I know that Dan and I have been breaking down, discussing is perks, and looking at how they relate to level, and making sure that when something becomes unlocked, if you're a specific level, that you should be getting specific types of perks. Meaning, if you're a high level, you shouldn't see the low level perks coming
Yeah,
through.
level 150 should never get a poor perk.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
So it should be a sliding scale. That's something that we're playing around with, but obviously that takes a tremendous amount of design and discussion to make sure it's done the correct way. And so that's something that we are definitely poking around. There's some other things that are still really early in the concept. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on those things because we may get down the road and realize this is just not going to work. It doesn't matter how hard we try to design this the right way. It's gonna break this other facet. So I don't want to lift the veil too much and show too much of the things that we're kicking around. But there are discussions that are about counselor and counselor gameplay, and potentially some opportunities that again will play into this. Like if you're choosing different paths and playing the game in different ways, you may start to have some interesting experiences. And yeah, I don't want to get too much further into that. Yeah, because I don't want to spoil something or let something out that is too difficult for us to to climb back if we can't get to what we want out of it. But
I think the important thing there is there's been a lot of community clamoring for something to be done about that perk situation. I saw somebody today that said they spent, I don't know how many thousands of CP or whatever it was to roll perks, and they were like, and I got not one legendary.
Yeah,
and that's kind of
that's not good.
It doesn't take a game industry veteran to realize that that's kind of a drag. So, but we're looking at these things, we're evaluating, and a lot of times that silence can seem like we don't want to promise anything or we want to put the question off. But really, what it comes down to, simple matter of the team's evaluating what that's going to shake out to be, what that's going to look like. And before we go down, we don't want to, like Wes said, go down the wrong path and get people thinking something. I see a lot of questions in chat though. Also
let's go ahead and open up like QA stuff and just start hitting some of these common questions that we see popping up. So make sure that you at Gun Media so that we see that.
And also, I saw a couple in there about salt mines I wanted to touch on real quick.
Okay.
The salt mines thing. Salt mines were a thing with peer-to-peer connections. Salt mines, you had players who would frequently leave matches and this and that, and that's how we ended up populating salt mines. Now with dedicated servers in the situation, the salt mines are not a thing. They are not tied to these other game behaviors that I think you guys are looking for. But for the sake of full transparency, the salt mines are not a thing because we don't have those peer-to-peer matches where we have issues with levers. So yeah,
right.
So we still track salt.
Sure.
So if we have like a fallback to peer-to-peer gameplay, the salt mines are basically in effect for that.
But they are tied to the peer-to-peer.
Yeah, but when you're on dedicated servers, if you're the host for the match, the game host, you're not actually hosting the game on your system. So if you leave, it sucks that a player left, but it doesn't ruin the match for everybody else.
I see this come up again, and we touched on this last stream, and I wanted to read this over. Any update on fixing the block and knife delay off host, aka in public lobbies? Now, this question has been throwing us for a little bit of a loop because the phrasing on it is a little strange, and you refer to off host when we have dedicated servers. So please specify. I know last time you got pretty frustrated. I think that was Gameplay and Guru who asked. You got pretty frustrated. That question popped up a couple of times, and if you could specify what you're referring to, because again, off host would be in a peer-to-peer, and we're talking dedicated servers. So yeah, if you could make that a little clearer for us, so we could get the. Look, somebody used CB radio cabin.
Yes.
It's sticking. Can you guys make the CB radio cabin
I
predetermined?
like it.
Oh, we
I
need
like
to
it.
ban him?
Yeah.
No,
remove
no.
it.
Tommy
Smartest guy in the
Tommy
chat.
Cabin.
Smartest guy in the chat.
It's actually the
Smartest guy in the
Yarvis
chat.
Shack, but whatever.
The one.
So predetermined CB radio cabins.
Yeah. Predetermined.
Yeah. So I'm guessing at match start.
No. I mean, we like that they're
Yeah.
they're randomized. It keeps gameplay interesting so that you can't memorize. I get it now that they're saying like, well, with the rage change, let's try to give as much of a tactical advantage to the counselors as possible. So if they're like in a predetermined place, everyone knows where to run to do that. But that is breaking away from the early game tension. In the early game, like, okay, where am I? Where's I need to find these locations instead of just already knowing them. Because when you get that down to memory, you're just running the same path right each time, and that's again breaking away from the spirit of what we want from Friday the 13th.
Sure.
And it's one of the first, it's one of the first steps you need for the Jason kill. You have to find
Yep.
the Jason shack to get the sweater, and then you have to call in Tommy. So if we just point out where everything is, it's more handing a Jason kill over when the Jason kill should be one of the more difficult means to win a match as a counselor.
Yeah.
I'll address. I think I've seen probably 8 comments already that are about what no DLC or what no
Yeah.
Jason X, what no whatever. So I'll address those to hopefully be able to help with a lot of those questions. No, we can't add content to the game, and content means clothing. Content means Jasons. Content means dirt, rocks, buildings, characters. We can't add anything like that to the game. We can make adjustments to the items that are in the game. We can make balance to the items that are in the game. We can make adjustments to animations and things like that are in the game if something is broken or bugged or otherwise. We can provide more control over certain aspects of the game. What we can't do is add something that didn't exist into the game. So the questions that are about lawsuit things or DLC or new Jasons or why is there no Jason X, that's the reason why we can't do it. It's not my call. I'm not the one that makes the rules for that because I'm not Friday the 13th. There are people far above my pay grade at different companies that manage and own that license. I was just given the right to make a game around that license. I was not given the license. I'm just using it, but everything has to go through them. Every single thing that we did went through our partners. It's Warner Brothers, it's Horror Inc., it's all the entities that manage the license itself. And it being a global license, it's a pretty big deal. So even for us to put out like a screenshot, right, like that has to go up the food chain first before we're allowed to release it. So that's why there isn't, the stuff that you guys are asking for. That's why it can't be put into the game.
And now something that has come up since you started that conversation is Jason X being seen in game.
Yeah, he wasn't finished, and we've gone into discussions with our partners about this, and that would still kind of fall under that
Yep.
that same scrutiny is the amount of work that needed to still go into it. Then that would be considered new. He doesn't have music. There was a few of the animations that weren't quite done yet. There was some lineup of the rig that wasn't done yet. When Jason grabs the characters themselves, there was the stuff was off with that.
Right.
So there's still things that we needed to finish up on that model, and that did not pass the cut. So
Right.
I'm sorry, it sucks because we were nearly done, and we spent money on it and a lot of hard work and love on that model. But no, it will not come out.
Like, it's no fun having stuff sitting on the shelf.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense for us either. I mean, let's just be real. But another question that we're seeing on the topic of content, and then we're going to move on because we got a really great question over there on Mixer. But the time frame of this, obviously, I mean, I already know the answer, but specify for
The time frame of what? I'm sorry.
the legal and content.
The time frame of
Is this for there? A lot of people are asking, is this forever? Is this for now? Is
yeah, this is forever.
right. So,
It's forever. Which I know that people are trying to hold on to. Well, what if you guys get the call? It hasn't happened, and I don't foresee it happening. And that whole legal world is again, it's not part of our day to day here. It's not us. We're not in said lawsuit. We just are a victim of it, I guess you could say. So it's not up to us when all that comes to fruition. So it doesn't make sense for us as a team to sit around and wait for something to hopefully happen. We can't. It doesn't make sense to spend money on building things that may never come out. So we have to, as a team, move on to other projects.
sure. So now, if you guys don't mind, we're going to move off of that topic of content. I think we've covered pretty much everything we're seeing, but there's another question that had come up that I thought was pretty good. Could you scroll up a bit there? I'm sorry.
Me? You need me to scroll up?
Yeah.
Sure. How far am I going here?
Right around there. Final girl and the Jason stun / rage mechanic, and
Sorry, who's this from? Oh, Camp Facer.
Yep.
I know Camp Facer.
This has been asked quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
what can we say about it?
yeah, like I said earlier in the top of the discussion, there's still things that we're discussing about counselor gameplay. Now that we've got Jason sort of in a spot that we think currently feels pretty good, we still want to continue hearing from the players and their thoughts on it. But there's some things that we're kicking around that's counselor gameplay. But again, I don't want to get into specificities where that later someone says, "Oh, but you said in that stream this thing," and it's like, well, I know, but it's still in
When the
concept
clips
phase.
start coming back out.
Right, it's still in concept phase. We're still sort of putting just the bits and pieces of it together conceptually, and then it has to move from sort of a paper design to now let's actually get it into a build and test internally, tweak, et cetera. But there's things, we've got ideas, we've got some stuff that we think are going to be very interesting to gameplay, and again, that's things that we're allowed to do. So that's where we are with that. So I know that's probably not like the direct answer that you're looking for, Camp Facer, and I'm sorry, but I think you understand why it's difficult for me to if someone asks me a specific, like, have you thought of this idea, will you put it in the game? It's difficult for us to answer that straight on because it takes a tremendous amount of work beforehand to ever realize that idea even in a playable state.
And like how many different things that a small idea, like a small idea, could touch and change and like drastically change to where you're completely altering gameplay for.
Or it breaks something.
Yeah, breaking is the worst case scenario.
Well, yeah.
Killjoy's giving Tarman some love. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. We get a little.
Somebody said earlier they were like, "Is that a little tiny Tarman in front of you, Wes?"
Yeah. It's the one that I think it's from NECA. I think there he is.
Yeah, boy.
He's pretty cool. Anyway, more questions.
Next Tarman bust. Please respond about those Savini kills listed as released the other day. Those were not listed as released. Those were some placeholder assets that popped up in a UI bug. There's really not much more. I know that it doesn't make for a great story when we're like, yeah, so those were just some icons. Sorry, guys,
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that they popped up like that, giving folks some hope. But believe me, if we were adding any kind of kills to the game, which again, after Wes's complete and 100% detailed answer on content, that's not a thing. But if we were, for some sake of argument, you wouldn't just see an icon pop up in game. You'd hear more about it.
So there's a question from Bunch Jaden. Would there ever be a sequel to Friday the 13th, the game? I mean, not from our team. Somebody else might go do that. The reason why I say not from our team is because we took the approach to this license and this opportunity as let's try to incorporate as much of the content from the films as we could, and tell a cool story and pick out some of the hero pieces from the films and make those things like the Higgins Haven, for example, or Pinehurst or whatever, Jarvis House. We try to pick those things out of the films that we thought were really cool and made interesting visual pieces for people to run around in. So we tried to kind of tell as much of a complete Friday story as we could in one single sort of time up to bat. It would if they were to come to me and say, let's make another one of these, let's make a sequel to this, I would probably approach it differently. Meaning I just don't want to put out the same game again and just put the number 2 on the logo and be like, here you go. Like it needs to be something different. So that's why we would probably not do that, is just because I want to look at other opportunities and other interesting things that either I haven't seen done in horror gaming yet, or just things that are inspiring me currently that I would be like, man, this would be really cool, but it doesn't really fit Friday. Like it doesn't fit that license, but there might be some other opportunities where it does fit. So that's, I guess, a long answer to your question. Captain Skull Murder wants a Child's Play game.
We also had somebody over here ask about, can we see Jarvis House small or Pinehurst small maps?
Again, that's in with the whole content issues that go with legal. So no, it would be cool, but I think those maps feel pretty good as they are right now. The sizing, like we spent a long time with Black Tower on those to really dial them in, and I think gameplay feels really tight on those 2 maps specifically. So no, but I do like that on Mixer. TNL Max says best mustache in the room, hands down. Dan.
I think he's talking about you, yeah. Any chance Swing Cancel will come back?
Swing Cancel? Probably not, no. I mean, it was, I realized the use of it because you get to, fake and sort of juke with Jason, where you can act like you're swinging and then stop. Like, I get the benefit of it being there, but I think that's, to me, that's not necessarily what Jason would do in a movie anyway. He's a little bit more lumbering, a little bit slow mentally. He's not going to know to do that. He's just going to, and that's why I really like that we have hitting multiple targets with one sweep. That is totally a Jason thing, and not the juke, sort of glitchy, quick twitching kind of swing that looks weird. And again, it sort of tears back away from this feeling like this is Jason, this big hulking, lumbering brute. That if he's able to quick snap glitchy, that's a different vibe. You know what I mean?
There's a lot more content questions coming up, and there's a random comment from Mute Tuba down there. Guys, again, the content thing, if it ties back to content, we've pretty much covered that, but also there's a really awesome FAQ that you guys can link to, ! Content in either chat. Will take you to our full FAQ on what isn't content and what the status of that is within Friday the 13th. Somebody had mentioned something about lighting up different objectives. I believe they were talking about the CB cabin, also known as the Tommy House. They were talking about those icons lighting up when Jason gets rage, which would actually be kind of a change toward benefiting Jason when he gets rage.
So if he gets rage, then
he can see where the Tommy House is if it hasn't.
Yeah, but I mean, I've said it in the last stream. There's a giant tower, right, with a red beacon light that's blinking on top of it. I mean, that's enough to telegraph to both sides. Like this is an area of interest. So no, I don't think it's necessary to add that as like a light up indicator, like on Jason's whatever. When he sets a trap, it's lit up on his map. He sees it. When someone steps on it across the map, there's a clicking sound. So I think he has enough tools to move around the map, know what's kind of going on, and be able to get the drop on some folks, while also allowing people that are being a little stealthy and playing smart to evade him, right? To evade his abilities. So I don't think that's the best plan, is to let's start showing Jason, the objectives.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Wes.
Okay, actually, this is a good one. I'm going to interrupt you. Nightmare King Bing, what's up? B, by the way, hang out in your stream sometimes. So what's up? He is asking about teaming.
Yep.
So and also Nightmare, what's up to your wife? Hope she's doing well. Teaming with Jason needs to have some sort of punishment. So teaming, yes. And to those that don't know what he's talking about, that's a Jason player, a counselor. They're using probably Discord or whatever they're using outside of game chat, party chat, something else, and they're talking to each other, and the counselor is telling Jason where counselors are, and and then Jason goes and kills everybody, and it's not fun. Anyway, this needs to be addressed, and I agree 100%. And it's the next thing that's on our docket that we're discussing. I don't know that we're going to have something for that by next patch, but I'm pushing for it. We've got a few things that are already into concept stage that so far they look pretty good. They now need to roll into full build to give it, because again, it's on paper first, and we're like, yeah, everyone internally reads and go, yeah, this all makes sense. Let's move this to an actual build so we can test it, touch it, and see if it holds up. And again, that shows promise. So you're never going to have a silver bullet that's going to fix this, because it's kind of like saying, hey man, how do you make people not be assholes?
Yeah.
And you're like, you can't. It's like, that's just not, it's just how people are. But there are some things we can do that we notice that people who play that way they have specific game styles, and they have specific tools that they use to act this way.
Sure.
And if you limit those, then it'll help. But we'll never get this, as a thing. Like, you'll never run into a team. It's going to happen. Yeah. But it's going to potentially slow it down, or you're not going to see it as readily available. And that when these changes come into, like changes with Rage, and then if there's things that we're working on with counselors, when those things start to come in, you actually see teaming fall off a little bit, because people are, something new. It's like, piece of candy, something new, and they kind of get in and play again. But then they'll revert back to sort of their old ways. Yeah. But nonetheless, yes, it is on the docket. It is a discussion. There will be something going in to help alleviate some of the teamers.
There was a comment in there that somebody said, why don't you just force game chat? I think if you really look into that, it's not really quite that simple. I mean, especially at this point, you could just pipe Discord in from your phone to your headset. Yeah. It's not going to eliminate it. If people want a team, the chat thing is not the way around it. But, like Wes said, there's things we're looking at. Yeah,
I mean, someone says that, why don't you just let people vote? And that's a discussion that we had here too. It's not an airproof system either. Because it's all about the amount of people that vote, then it takes place, and then the person gets voted. Who gets booted? Does that mean Jason gets booted too? If Jason gets booted, then the map resets, and now you may get broken up, because that's how the dedicated servers roll through people. Is it dumps a server and repopulates, and you don't always get back into the same server with somebody you're playing with. Now with your party, that's different, but. Mm-hmm. If you just find like a random dedicated server that you jump into, and most of the people in there are cool, you may not know them, but they're playing the game properly, and there's a couple of, the teamer in there with Jason, if everyone in the thing votes and is like, get rid of these two people, they suck, well, now that whole thing just got broken up again, yeah. Right? So there's not a silver bullet that's just like, if we do this, it fixes everything. Like, there's always going to be issues that get tacked on with it, and a tremendous amount of engineering that need to go into making a system like that work. And so what we're trying to find are smaller wins that aren't 6 months worth of development to get this much of the ball moving forward, because we can actually have shorter dev cycles on some ideas that add up to about the equivalent of what the other would be. So that's why some of those decisions are being made, and how you can look at maybe something that someone says in chat and go, that's a great idea, and it is a great idea. But when you look behind the scenes, you're like, oh shit, like that's going to take forever to do that, and it's going to break all these other things. So is it really worth it to do that? So that's one thing to consider for sure.
Tracy Dahl said in the chat you could remove players from the mini map. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I've spoke to Tracy a few times. I've hung out with her in her in her streams, and her community's awesome, by the way. Like, there's people in there that play the hell out of the game. Like, a lot of high level players hang out in there. I see Mets in there every now and then, and some other guys. So she's got a great community around her that has good ideas that are high level players, which is sometimes why I kind of get in there and lurk too, is just seeing what they're saying and what they're talking about. It's a good idea, and it's a thing that's being discussed around here. It was a topic that came up a while ago, about how maps work and what you see on maps. It was kind of a bigger, broader discussion, but it's been revisited again now with teaming, and that's another example of like
Sure.
what are some of the tool sets that are being used that can be readdressed and looked at in a different light. So yeah,
A couple people over here on Mixer have some comments.
Sure.
Is it possible to please make it to where people with no mic can hear those who do? That sounds platform based. Could you eliminate teaming by having separate Jason queues? I mean, personally, if I can. Oh, by the way, somebody in Twitch asked if we could pull demask our Jason. And
There you go.
Separating the player base with different queues, that gets tricky and difficult. Wes, you want to provide some insight on the idea of that?
Having separate JSON queues. So
Yeah.
it's not how matchmaking or the dedicated servers were created. Everyone gets dumped into a lobby, and they're now in the server together. And then the match loads in assets as the lobby dumps out, and you go into the actual game. So no, we can't just flip a switch and build a separate queue for JSONs, because they all have to live into the same lobby and see each who is Jason and so on and so forth. And it's also great to have the same thing when you get into like a private match. It's a similar visual format so that it's easy for everyone to understand what they're supposed to be doing. So there's some onboarding and user flow that kind of is needed in that. So I hear what they're saying. I know what they're sort of trying to get at, but it's a much bigger undertaking to get that done. Again, we're going to put a couple of these small things, move them from concept into an actual build and see if they work. And if they work, then we want to roll them out and see what you guys think about them and see if it helps to alleviate the problem. And if it doesn't, then we continue making steps to help as much as we can. Just know that there's never going to be the silver bullet, and we're never going to outdevelop this. Like, it's just going to happen. I can't think of a multiplayer game that gives you an experience where somebody can't be a dick. Like, it's just going to happen, and it sucks.
I just want to say real quick, what's up, Z Cooperstown and TFR84? Thanks for joining the stream and hanging out. And also, I saw a couple of mentions in there about, something I wish we would have had were pitchforks, or Jason be able to pick up random weapons around the map. Again, that's tied, if I'm not mistaken, and stop me if I'm incorrect here, but those kinds of things are tied to the kills and the different kill animations that have kind of been like painstakingly crafted and plugged in.
Yeah.
If you say you were to have all your favorite machete kills, like mine's the Pamela, the classic.
Sure.
And then you pick up a pitchfork, what do you get?
Yeah.
How does that play out? So there's little things like that, but
You just have to map animations to each one of the weapons that Jason could pick up if that was a thing. But what is he doing with his main weapon? Does it just disappear?
Right.
And so there's just weird things there that start to add up and compound problems. But it was a discussion really, really early on, like before beta, before you guys ever even knew that this was a game. That was a discussion of because Jason is somewhat of a he works well with like found items, right? Like he may just walk into somewhere and go, oh, look, this is a thing I can kill someone with, and then he uses it one time and then he moves on, right? It was definitely a thing in the movie, so it was something that we tried to discuss and come up with a design that made sense. But what we were losing was some of the cool cinematic kills that we get, and the fact that we had an unlock tree tied to, when you get to use this weapon at this kill, or some of the environmental kills was somewhat of a way to get that, where it's like I'm in this certain area, so now I can do this specific kill. But yeah, it was a discussion. We had it, and we couldn't find a timely way to provide some additional weapons kind of laying around the map for Jason to pick up and do stuff, and also deliver some of that cinematic approach that we did to kills. It was a time, money, and we were running out of both as we were getting close to the finish line.
We have somebody, technicalities, asking a fun question. How often do you guys play? How often do you play, Wes?
Dev builds of the game internally, like when we're testing new ideas, is different. Do I just sit down and play our game for fun? Not often.
Right.
It's been a while.
We do get plenty of opportunity around.
Yeah.
Especially
But it's always like just when we had this patch and stuff, we kind of put our head down and played a lot. The last couple of weeks working through some of the things that we knew we wanted to do. But yeah, I'm not home on a Wednesday night like I'm going to fire up the game and play it.
Yeah.
I'm already there's discussions, and we're helping with our partners at at Bloober for Layers of Fear, and so
Yeah.
there's some of my brain that's kind of dedicating helping to that, as well as just looking at other opportunities and other things that we may be doing as a company. So I don't get as much playtime, I guess, as some of the others.
It's you get like 2 years after launch, and I started like a year and a half ago now. For the first 6 months, I would play a lot, but then if every part of your life is Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
when you go home,
Right.
you don't sit there and think, what I need tonight is some more Friday the 13th.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Something I've been talking about all day for 40 hours this week, now Saturday night. Yeah. I do think it's interesting, though. It's pretty cool that we've, had those opportunities around the office to play. And I think that to close that question out, you'd be surprised at some of the skill around here. Ronnie is actually a stellar Jason.
Oh yeah.
Ronnie's an amazing Jason and
Yep.
actually scares me. So anyway, consider making it so counselors die from less damage. Oh, we got to scroll up for that one. I just lost it as I was reading it.
Okay.
Considered making it so counselors die from less damage for quicker games to keep a better pace. So you're talking about shorter matches overall.
Die from less damage.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what he's saying. So you just kind of lower the.
Like cut their hit points.
Yeah. Have I considered it? I have not considered it. I do. It would make for quicker games. That is for sure. But I haven't considered it. Is it because you think we should have quicker games? Is that I guess, the reason why you're asking that, Math?
Jason is just misunderstood. I agree. I love the perk meta in this game, but I wish it was more fleshed out. Are there any plans to rework any of the perks? Actually, Kaylee Co., sorry if you missed it. We had covered the perks earlier in the stream. Basically, the team is looking at what we can do with perks and what can be done to kind of tune them up, fix them up a bit. But we don't have anything concrete to share on that at this time. While it's still in this early phase, the team really has to kind of put the pen to paper before we can really start talking about where their heads are at like that. I like Lady Au Pair. I am a pretty terrible Jason, but I love playing as Jason.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think that's a pretty good sum up of the community here. Why do the 500 and 1,000 matches as Jason trophies don't work on PS4? I've been Jason for over a year and play daily and no trophies yet. Blue Hazed, I haven't heard any reports of them actually not working, that we weren't able to verify that they weren't at the marker yet.
Yeah.
So it may just be that you're under that marker and don't realize, Remember when Kane punched Randy in the Adam Sessler interview?
Yep. I remember that.
I don't remember that. I never, as a fan watching,
Oh yeah.
my previous employment, I had no idea. Why would Kane Hodder punch Randy?
Because he's Kane. That's what he does.
It's just he just punches
Yeah.
people. Cool.
But Randy's lovable.
Yeah, he is.
Bradshaw, can you please implement opening maps while climbing in and out of windows?
Oh, before, whenever the animation started of entering a window, you could open your map. So people use that downtime of the, whatever it was, 100 frame total animation of going through to open their map real quick and look at it. And that got discontinued. We cut that out because there was an exploit within it. There was a way that you could open, close, and do whatever, and shitty things happened. And so it was removed from the game.
So there you have
no, it will not be put back into the game
because shitty things happen.
because stuff broke. And now if it's down the road and everything else is running like clockwork in the game, then there may be some little quality of life things. If enough people are like, I really wish they'd bring that back, then we may spend the time to bring it back and like get it implemented properly. But in its current state, we just turned it off because there was ways to break the game when you could do that.
We'd be able to fix the audio being off in offline bots mode. Yes, those out of sync issues are something that, well, I say yes, as in I've seen that reported. There's been a couple of different out of sync issues that we've got reported up to the team, and it's just about chugging through that list, and we're looking into it. So, let's see here. Realistically, who's going to be opening a map when they crawl through a window anyway? I mean, I wasn't gonna, but we're talking about some real minuscule moments that people are trying to save on. So
Yeah.
why can't you walk while using map as counselor? I think you would just end up with a lot of counselors walking into weird random things. So
Yeah, I mean, some of that is when you're interacting with an object. If you have to stand still to use it, then it becomes an active choice that you have to make, like a pro and a con to it. Which psychological piece of that is it's adding actual tension to you and a little bit of stress to you, even though you don't realize it. Is because you're having to stop to do it. Therefore, you are vulnerable when you stop to do it. So you really have to think about those options. It's something that is used in just about every horror game on the market. Look at the new Resident Evil with, some of the options done with that. Old school Resident Evil with shooting, like the tank shooting options and things like that. Like all those things are playing into that tension, stress, etc. So we do that because it f's with you. That's why we do it.
I see a couple of comments that have scrolled through. Oh, before we get to that, have to go, guys. Great job with the direction of the game so far. I'll be talking to Wes about more of my community's ideas. Thanks for tuning in, Tracy.
Thanks, Trace.
Somebody had asked a question about. Let me scroll up here. Can you roll that back there right about? Yeah.
I'm clicking everything. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Any possibility of picking what Jason music is heard when you play as Jason? I've seen that reported quite a bit in the community, but again, you guys, I also just a couple.
Yeah, the
comments
answer to that is
saw the-
no.
Yeah.
Because each Harry Manfredini sat down and wrote music to each Jason. He and I went back and discussed each of the films. We pulled out key pieces from each of the films and integrated that into the signature of each one of the sounds. So to then let someone go in and break all that and say, I want to listen to J2 as I'm playing as J7. Like I understand I want the control of that, being able to do that as a player, but there was a reason why it was designed that way to do that, and the pacing of that it matches that Jason. Now, way down the road, whenever we're like done with this game and we're walking away forever, if that's something that like overwhelmingly people want it, I'll hear it. But if you're asking me one-on-one, hey Wes, would you do this for me? I'm not going to do it because of how much of my life and Harry's life we sat down fighting over this music forever to get it right.
Well, yeah, and like I was just gonna say, I had seen a couple rolls back somebody asking something similar about moving bits from different Jasons, and again, one of the things that the team I've seen a lot of positive feedback about is that the level of detail and the attention to some of that lore and stuff. So
Track X Virus asks, any chance of fixing the space between the stairs and the couch on Packanack that has an invisible wall? No, and it's an invisible wall because it was a hack. There was a way to exploit in that area. We can go in and start moving some furniture around, but the way that the furniture was currently placed actually made for like cool game moments that would happen. So we didn't want to like screw with some of that stuff by moving some of the furniture around. And so by putting a quick invisible wall there to block the exploit from happening, is kind of a Band-Aid, but at the same time, it's not breaking anything else. But I understand that people were using it as a viable way to maybe escape and get away from Jason. But there was a tremendous amount of people that were using it for exploitative reasons. So no, not now, not currently. But again, it's something that we could go back and look at, maybe trying to move some things around if we really need to move furniture to open up game space. But I think you can still get away pretty effectively in those areas.
Over here on Mixer, we've got any chance on doing something against people who camp the whole match in a closet, under a bed, or in a tent? I mean,
they're
surviving.
taking themselves out of the game. They're not completing any other objective.
Doing something against them?
Yeah, it's making it harder for themselves. So
I mean, I get that there's people that approach this game as this is a team-based game, and so my team needs to be working together and efficiently and communicating, and let's try to get out of here together. And if someone is like, I'm just going to go sit under a bed the whole match, they're not participating in the team, and that's okay. Like, that's how that player wants to play the game. They're not exploitative. They're not breaking something. It's boring. Like, I don't know how that's fun to just get under a bed the whole match, but, I mean, that's how they want to play it.
I think Jason is the fix for that.
I mean, yeah, do trial and error. If he gets into a cabin and there's 4 or 5 beds in there, he'll eventually get to them, I guess. Yep. Now it kind of sucks if someone hides and waits for like somebody to fix the car, and then they come running out and they're like, "Hey, wait for me." It's like, dude, you didn't do anything. So that kind of is like, but that's up to the driver, right? The driver can just be like, "Nah, bro, you didn't help. See ya."
Somebody, no, it was Mad Hatter Lynn said, "Can you add Fortnite dances for Jason? Please don't.
No, there will not be
Stop it.
any dances for
Stop
Jason.
it. You can't cap on that hard enough." So, is there a chance to get the counselor from intro because he is not new content?
No, that counselor was created for our when we tested all kills. He was kind of our kill test dummy. Um, and yes, he was modeled from somewhat of a rough version of Rob, um, but we didn't finish. He has like the lowest level detail on him. His face isn't fully finished, and so again, because he was just used to test kills on, and when we got close to the game, we're like, hey, we've been using this guy as like our punching bag internally, sort of between Gunn and Ilphonic. We were like, we should put him in as like the guy Jason always kills at the beginning. And so we just kind of work the cameras where you actually don't see that he's not a fully finished model. But yeah, that's why that is the way it is.
The car issues have come up quite a bit,
Yeah.
and I've missed a few questions from them. I apologize if I missed your question, but basically, I mean, we're seeing these reports of multiple different things happening with cars. So, currently, all we have for you guys is that the team is looking into it and working on it. It may look like it's all the same behavior, but it's actually a variety of causes to it. So, if you see something like that happening, by all means, report it to us. Get it over to us, jasonkillsbugs.com. Get it over to us on social, on the forums, Reddit, wherever you can. We're in the process of tracking out those different methods to causing that behavior, and we're working on it.
Saw a couple questions. I think because we're on front page over on Mixer. There's probably people joining that just aren't familiar. This is for Friday the 13th, the game, and we are the concept team and publishers behind Friday the 13th, the game. So this is a time that we sit and talk with our community about patch updates and things that are going on with the game. So to those that were asking, that's who we are.
Oh, yeah, yeah. People complaining about dying easier as Jason. Maybe shut down the Tommy house. Oh, yeah, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, Thursday. I know people were talking about dying easier. I saw some comments earlier about the mask coming off quicker, but to the best of my knowledge, is there anything changed there?
No.
I think he's just responding to somebody else in chat.
Well,
He's saying, like, if you're complaining about Jason dying too easy, just be a better Jason. Make sure that people aren't getting in and out of the Tommy house or getting into the sweater or Jason's hut.
Linking that back, we missed a few questions about the mask coming off, so I just wanted to touch on that. As far as we know, there's no changes to the mask and what it takes for the mask to come off. Remember that different Jasons are different, and I believe folks have shifted up the way they run Jason right now and what particular Jasons they are running, so that might be part of why you're seeing masks fly off a little bit quicker if they're running some Jasons with, mask does not come off quicker. There you go. And it's a shack.
Riley,
Dan.
it's a shack,
Yeah.
not a hut. Thanks,
Oh,
Riley.
it's a shack. Yeah. Part
It
2
is a
Jason's
shack, though, it's true.
mask is the fastest one to come off. And actually, Part 2 Jason's mask should be the fastest one to come off. Am I wrong there?
I think that's right because he's, I guess, sort of the weakest. Or
It's a sack.
yeah.
So, what you're seeing is folks who are looking at the new rage change and they're switching what Jasons they're using as a result of it. You're seeing Jasons running around more common in the meta that their mask comes off a little quicker. So, but I mean, keep us posted on that if there's something you guys can see, that we're not seeing here. Comes off faster now because of no stun hits on the technicalities. You got to retype that one for me, man. I think the blocks added to block off exploits in the game has been a godsend to us who enjoy playing. So things, again, like underneath those stairs. Yeah.
Yep.
I think Jason's rage should have a little cooldown. Let's say when he enters rage, he has it for 1.5 minutes. Then he goes back to normal with half his stunned rage meter. Again, there's been a lot of really interesting ideas and a lot of really interesting feedback from the community. The team is pulling all this stuff in and they're weighing it out. But
Yeah.
I think Wes said it pretty much the easiest, straightest way you could, and that's that we're not necessarily done. So
Right. Yeah. Don't treat the the current build as like, oh, that's it. They're not doing anything else, and they're moving on. Like that's not the case at all. We're continuing to tweak things and adjust things and make balance changes. And our goal here is we always talk about sort of this pendulum, right? Where it's if it's Jason on one side, councils on the other, and which way are we swinging gameplay towards? And we just took a big swing towards gameplay towards Jason, right, and making him scary. And so it's for us now. It's looking at like, okay, what do we need to make some little adjustments on the counselor side? to bring that maybe down just a little bit so that it's there's still somewhat of a I can get out of here if I really time this right or if my strategies are just right. You know, I can do this, and some of that may be through perks. Some of that may just be through some minor tweaks and balances. I know there's people that are requesting for can rage just be a cooldown and not something he has forever. Right now, with the way that it is, we like how it is right now, and we are hearing from a lot of people that they like it as well. But we know there's people that don't. It needs to continue to simmer. It needs to be there a little longer, and let's see where this whole thing sort of pans out before we start making some of those decisions. Like, can you imagine if we put out a patch in 2 weeks that was like, hey, so we changed rage again? I mean, people would be like, the hell?
Yeah, I mean, you can't make a plan for how you're going to change a game based on 6 days of feedback.
Right. Yeah, it just needs to be there longer. It needs to marinate more. You guys need to play it more. We need to see the new meta that's coming out of it, because there was an old meta, and you ask me, it wasn't a good one in terms of this doesn't feel like a Friday 13th game. Like,
yeah.
And so I feel like we're getting closer to that now, and we're not there right now. We're getting close, and it's going to continue to make those tweaks and adjustments.
I see here a couple of people saying, asking about the Beyond series here. How long do you plan on doing Beyond sessions? Beyond is a show we run every Tuesday on Twitch and Mixer, 3 p.m. every Tuesday. We'll be talking about anything Gun Media is working on, anything we have our hand in, and we kind of, again, we can adjust on the fly, and it's our opportunity to sit down and have a chat with our community. So we'll be back next Tuesday with another Beyond, but also we'll be back on Thursday with an episode of Tales from the Stream, where we'll be playing some horror games, talking about horror and how horror, how we are all huge horror fans. Mass damage is tied to stuns. No stuns in rage equals full damage, so the mask comes off easily in rage. If you're talking about post-rage, is that accurate, that the mask comes off?
Mass damage is tied to stun. Non-stun in rage equals full damage, so the mask comes off easily in rage. Well, stun and damage they're sort of two separate things, but they're kissing cousins too, in like behind the scenes. In that you can hit Jason with something, and it is chipping away at his HP, if you will. And then there's the sort of a dice roll behind the scenes that says, based on the weapon and the person that swung it or whatever, should this stun him or not, right? And there's some things that have better or less. So pre-rage, that's still the same. Post-rage, the fact of the dice roll is gone, right? Is that you just can't, but you're still impacting him. You're still chipping away at his HP. So when you say the mask comes off easily in rage, that's an organic thing, because if you've already got the mask off, then he's already taken a lot of damage, or if he's already got to rage, he's already taken a lot of damage to get to rage, right? So that's why the mask seems to be coming off easily post-rage. You may have already done, if you think of it like 0 to 100, and let's say at 99 amount of damage to Jason, his mask comes off, right? Let's assume that. I'm just making numbers up now, so don't quote me on this stuff. Well, probably around 80 is when he's going to hit rage, right? That you've beat him up to that point that now rage has started. So he's only got this much more to go before his mask is going to come off. So it feels like that. I hear what you're saying, but behind the scenes, that's not the case. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Any thoughts to allowing counselors to be less likely picked up by Jason's sense if they pick up?
He says you can get rage with. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to help. Yeah. You can get rage without being hit. Yes, that is correct. There is the rage after around 10 minutes will fill all the way up. It's naturally going. Things that you do to Jason, he steps on a trap, you hit him, it's pump, 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 it's moving that up more and more. So if you're saying that if no one touches Jason, he never touches a trap, and at just after 10 minutes, Jason hits rage with 0, no one's touched him, and you're saying someone comes up and hits him and his mask is coming off easier, I've never ever seen that in the game ever. But if you have clips of it, please do send it, because that would be wrong and broken. So technicalities, if you can prove it and show it to me in a clip, I'll make it a top priority, fix it, because that would be broken as hell. So then you would have full health. At that point, 3-act swings would do full damage and the mask would come off. Depends on the Jason. With 3-act swings, remove a mask. But yes, please do that. Technicalities. Grab me a clip and show me. It'll help out tremendously. So sorry, I didn't mean to dominate that. I was just trying to help.
They want you to smile for them.
Did I not smile enough? Sorry. It's
I
because
thought that would be
I'm
great.
I know I'm trying to read and I'm trying to answer the questions and I'm like, you know how sometimes these things go, like
Yeah,
I mean, people actually call it resting West face.
yeah.
because I'm just like,
Yeah, like other people in the office have said that.
yeah, sorry, man. It's not that. I don't know. I think I'm constantly trying to listen. I want to help.
That's a fun question from Slash and Cast. Due to how important traps are now, have you considered decreasing the time it takes counselors to set them?
I have not considered that, but I am looking at traps overall.
Overall, right?
So it's a thing
It's
that
part
we're
of
discussing.
that greater rage, post-rage change kind of,
So should I when somebody asks me a question, I answer the question,
Hi.
and at the end of that question, like I just need to smile really big?
Yeah.
Is that what they need to do?
Maybe do one of these for
Is
them.
that creepy?
Well, I think they're here for it. So
Okay.
this is the first time I've ever heard anyone tell a man to smile more, and I'm here for it. All right, Gary. Anytime I
Nice.
get to see Wes's awesome stash, it's a joy. See, there you go.
Thank you.
guy.
Appreciate
There
it.
you go.
Thank you.
What is the content of the next update? Obviously, guys, we're not going to be breaking news on our next patch this
Right.
close to our previous one. But considering the state that Friday the 13th is in, we're talking about our bug fixes and our balancing and continuing to evaluate where things are at. Right now, we've got feedback coming in from the community on a ton of different fronts, from everything from situations with the car to talking about potentials for perk reworks. So basically, the next patch that you're thinking about, we can't confirm what's going to be in it, but we're going to be working hard on the things that get reported. So make sure you stay in touch with us on all the socials, Reddit, and the forums so that we can get these things sorted out. Can we get the boat every map instead of the 4-seater? Man, taking away the 4-seater, that would be... Would adding an extra perk slot for counselors be possible? That was something I saw Please Me asked a couple of times patiently.
Not at this time. Right now, it's, Dan and I are working to the current perks that are there and getting them in a better place.
Yep.
Let's do that first and get that out. And then if you guys still think this isn't enough or we would benefit from another perk slot, then we're open to that discussion. And I know there's also been some questions about level cap. And right, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to increase the level cap if we can't put in content, because that's usually the point of increasing level cap is there's new stuff to unlock and have. So just be cognizant of that, but it's not off the table in terms of if people really just want to see the number go up, like we'll have that discussion. But what usually happens if you do that, people automatically expect, like, why am I not getting new stuff? It's like, well, because we can't put new stuff in. That's why.
Add the boat to small maps and make it 100% guaranteed. This boat thing is going.
No.
Pocket knife perk, please. Again, man, the perk situation.
Yeah.
We've really kind of.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
When are you releasing more clothing options? That
Never.
wasn't the category of content, guys.
Yeah, sorry.
And I also I wanted to note this because it came through earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt any of my partners here. But somebody had mentioned the Pajama Pack. They said they had seen the Pajama Pack. It had been leaked, revealed, showed, whatever. I just want to reiterate to you guys that just when something makes its way out before it's intended to make its way out, that doesn't mean that it's finished. There's so many different things that could be wrong with those that, that's pretty much how that goes. So, again, the status of content in Friday the 13th, and the status of content in Friday the 13th in the situation with that, it's not as done as you may think just because you've seen a picture here or there. So, small maps hurt the game for the lack of balance on those. I'd love to hear more about that, Danny Hell. Maybe you can get in touch with us on Reddit and the forums. We can get into that discussion a bit more. Speedo Jason, yeah, I'm a fan. Guys, we're getting to the end of our show, but I want to make sure that, Smile Constantly, you should also stare at the boys when they're talking and nod like mad. Yeah, nothing about that.
That's what I need to do?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, now that it's gotten weird, guys, if you have any last minute questions, get them in. Currently, like I said, you guys are tuned into our Beyond stream, which is where we try to hang out and have a little bit of time with our community members. We've got
It's not a bad idea. Some Shades of Joe says, can we get extra locations for the phone fuse box? Veteran players, they have that memorized. I agree with that. I think they do have it memorized, and I think there does needs to be some RNG as it comes to those. And so it's something that I want to discuss. I want to kick around and see if there's how static is that system, and can we move some things around if we want to. So yeah, it's a good idea.
I missed that one completely. Good pick. Whether you can add the attributes to legendary skills, the current additional properties are too little to feel the effect. And again, that's part of that perk rework. It's
Yeah.
not always necessarily a matter of, adding something new so much as just turning some knobs and dials. But that's part of what makes it a longer process as well, guys. And it's something that the team has to really kind of sync up on.
Just above, I think it was on Twitch chat, Havoc asks, so with not like, a lot of money coming in, let me scroll back up and find his exact, with no more real cash flow coming in, because there's no new content, dedicated servers cost money to keep up. How long before the servers have to come down because the money is gone? I mean, it's a good question, and I can't predict when that date is on the calendar. Right now, we're fine. The game still sells pretty well, especially when there's sales on with all of our partners, be it at Steam or Xbox or PlayStation. So we're doing okay right now, and we're going to continue to support and continue to keep those servers running just as long as possible. But I can't tell you like, oh, I know for a fact on August 1st is when we're going to do it. I don't know that, but my goal is to keep them going as long as we possibly can. But don't worry, if that day were to come, it's not like I'm going to drop it on you and say, "Hey, guess what? Tomorrow's last day. See ya." Like you're gonna know a long heads up, and we would already be working towards things to allow for the game to do more stuff offline, for that because I wouldn't just leave it high and dry like that, right? Like if I saw it coming, then I'm going to make some adjustments to what we're working on as a team, so that we kind of sunset that and button it up in a meaningful way instead of just the equivalent of flipping you guys off and rolling on. Like I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Confirmed August 1st.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And somebody said, have you considered an official forum thread for people to share their ideas for the game? Literally, the entirety of the forums is that. So,
Yeah, you can jump on
make a thread.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. And I'm reading them all. I'm there.
Yep.
Hey, can you guys play on your next stream? We will, Thursday.
I would recommend if you are going to jump on the forum and do it, start a thread, maybe call it like post rage, game change ideas or something, just so that we know, you were here and listening to the things we were discussing, but then also we know that it's not just someone typing something. It's like, I have some ideas for the game. Like it's knowing that you were already thinking and you've played the rage change, where things you would like for it to go. That would help. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Put
gonna have to
Jason's
bail
mask
for a minute.
back on. Well, we're going to wrap it up here anyhow, guys. Again, this has been Beyond. We've got another stream coming next Tuesday, another Beyond. We're going to be talking about Layers of Fear on that one, barring any other kind of situations. And Thursday, we have Tales from the Stream, where we're going to be playing...
We are going to play some horror games. I mean, we may still do Resident Evil.
I was hoping, yeah.
Because we didn't get a chance to last week, but that may be something that we play. But there may be something else that we kick around. I want to play the new. It's not really a horror game, but it's kind of the expansion to Subnautica. I was a huge fan of the first one, and I swear to God, there are elements of that game that feels more closer to a horror game than some horror games are able to get to. But anyway, that might be a future one. So maybe this Thursday we'll do Resident Evil and then look at some other things later. So we hope to see you guys come back and hang out with us for Tales from the Stream on Thursday.
That's right. And we'll see you guys again next week with another episode of Beyond. And that's about it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks for hanging out with us. Oh, we've got...
Uh-oh.
Wait right there. We've got one more giveaway. We're going to give away a Halloween clothing pack, a Spring Break 1984 pack, and an emote pack on both Twitch and Mixer starting right now. We've got 60 seconds. Gun Media Help is going to get that kicked off. We're going to get that going. Maybe we'll just take a few more questions there. Nice shirt, Matt. Thanks, Nick. I bought it from some guys on the internet. We're going to... good job, Gun. Thanks, guys. We're going to get those out of the way. So, ! Raffle in both chats. You'll be able to enter the giveaway. We've got 60 seconds to get that going, and maybe we'll get another question. Shelly needs a buff.
I want to do a shout out to I Am Prez Steve over at Mixer.
That's a good point.
Got us set up
That was cool, too.
really fast.
Yeah, it was super fast. Very cool.
While we're on the topic of that, a quick shout out to the mods of our forums. You guys have been putting in the overtime, if you know what I mean. Thank you very much. You guys are the MVPs.
I want to give a shout out to Mr. Rob Fox, the one and the only, our producer behind the scenes that's pulling levers and switching cameras and doing all the cool work. So thank you, Rob. Love you long time.
Yeah. Shelly's fine. Please don't ruin him. Shelly's hair needs the buff. Shelly is the buff. I
Yeah.
like it.
Shelly
It's funny because when we put him in the game, like the first thing that Larry messaged me, he was like, his packages are big enough. That's like what Larry messaged. And I know that anyone in chat who's met him would know, like, that's so like Larry, his like sense of humor.
Somebody was just asking for. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Somebody was just asking for more double XP. Stay tuned to the socials for that. We'll let you guys know when we've got another one of them coming up. We run them pretty regularly. So we've got a winner in Mixer, Dublin Poppy.
Did he win the first one?
Did the same person? Congrats, Dublin.
It says
Poppy.
Congrats again.
Congrats again.
All right. Well, hey, we're gonna have to work that one out. He won
Wow.
both. Congrats. We're gonna have to work that one
Wow.
out next time.
Dude, go play the lottery. Leave your house.
Really. Thank you guys for making this game. You guys might know it, but you have made friends and changed lives. Thank you, Wes, Daniel, and Matt, and Gun Media. Thanks, Thursday. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Thursday.
Woohoo double XP. Hold on, female phenom. We didn't say now, but soon.
Yeah.
Miss Stash was drawn from the giveaway on Twitch, so that's everybody set. Somebody said rigged on Mixer. Yeah, hey man, Dublin Poppy, like Wes said, go play the lotto, man. Maybe give one to your friend. Thank you guys very much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Thursday with Tales, and we see you guys next Tuesday with another episode of Beyond.
I'm going to smile.
Yeah, there you go. Smile big. Smile big, Wes. Big smiles. Take care,
Thanks, guys.
everybody.